So please give a warm welcome for Jason Romeyko.
Dobrodošli. Hi. Well, thank you for making it after lunch. I know the weather's probably a little bit more attractive than sitting inside here. But today the topic is one very close to my heart. It is about bravery in creativity. So braving the way is kind of like a bit of a play on words. In English you say paving the way for something. So in other words, making a way forward for something. Here I've mixed in the word bravery in there to kind of like add the extra oomph. So if you think about when you're kids, yeah, we're all born with fearlessness, yeah, nothing can really hurt us, we're always ready to go to the edge and try something out, yeah, push a button here, go and have a look in there. But then things happen, shit happens, and I know something about that because I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers, and the age difference is between 10 and 20 years. So I was always catching the hockey ball with my eye, the cricket ball with my eye, the baseball ball with my eye. So I had black eyes my whole childhood. So I really hate those kind of sports. And then, you know, as I grew older, I had different car accidents. So I hate driving. I have a fear of flying. I actually hate crowds. So I have developed all of these fears. And I think it's rather ironic that at some point I started to invest my courage into my creativity and my ideas. And I think it's important to point this out because so many creative people, particularly in a marketing industry, and I include clients in that amongst those creative people because there are many creative clients that I've worked with, you develop this kind of fear. And fear is often because the people around you, they have a subjective point of view that maybe it's not a good idea. They also have a point of view which comes from research and from a different kind of experience. So in other words, very often when you're trying to present a brave idea, it's rejected before you even start simply because people are afraid. Oh, I have a clicker, sorry. So when I get beaten down, I like to think of this quote by James Cameron. If you set your goal ridiculously high and it's a failure, then you succeed above everyone else's successes. And I really like this because James, when he said this, he was talking about Avatar. Now, James Cameron may not be the best director in the world, but I think arguably he is the most ambitious director in the world. I mean, he reconstructed a life-size replica of Titanic, and particularly when he was dealing with Avatar, he sat on the idea for about 10 or 12 years because technology to bring his vision to life just wasn't there. And so James decided to invest in the technology and bring technology up to speed in the hope that one day he could actually produce his film, which he did, and it was a major success, and now there's going to be a sequel coming out. So in creativity, the most destructive emotion that you can have is fear. Fear paralyzes you. And what we need to be able to do is transform that fear into curiosity. So I think it would be too much to say to transform the fear into fearlessness, because that is just, for some people, that's too unheard of, but to kind of reignite the curiosity which is in each and every one of us. And that we also need to remember that fear will always be there. It's going to be part of any creative process. It keeps you honest, actually. It keeps me very honest. It keeps me being edgier and edgier. Elizabeth Gilbert, in her book called Big Magic, wrote this fantastic letter to fear. And in there she said, well, Mr. Fear, you can sit in the car, but you're not allowed to say a word, and you're definitely not doing the driving. So you're not allowed to let fear make the decisions in what you do. So with this next project, or the one, this particular project, I wanted to see what would happen. I was curious to see what would happen when we put a lethal virus into the hands of thousands of people. Sound?
HIV doesn't make the headlines anymore, so it seems less of a danger. And because no one's talking about it, it also seems more shameful to those carrying the virus. In the lead up to the Life Ball in Vienna, the world's largest fundraising event for HIV and AIDS causes, Vanguardist, a leading magazine in Austria, Germany and Switzerland, wanted to raise the issue, to reach a much wider audience and put the topic in people's hands again. HIV-positive people from different backgrounds were willing to donate blood. With the help of Harvard and Innsbruck universities, we then injected the blood into the printing presses and created a special edition of the Vanguardist HIV Heroes issue. Every word, every line, every picture, every story carried the blood. The magazine was sealed in a plastic envelope, challenging readers to first break the seal and help break the stigma. Touching the magazine is as safe as shaking the hand of an HIV-positive person. Still, reactions varied.
A unique magazine will hit newsstands. The cover is printed with ink containing blood from HIV-positive people.
The HIV-positive issue was immediately picked up by media around the globe.
3,000 copies of the special edition.
Call on readers to take a hands-on approach to the social stigma.
Printed with inks containing HIV-positive.
Now, we have the magazine in a plastic cover, but they are telling us that you can't get HIV.
HIV made the headlines again, and conversations are being reignited every day.
So this particular... Thank you. This particular topic of HIV has been around for 30 years, and I was struck by that figure at the very beginning from the UN that there'd been an 80% increase in new infections. And I asked myself why that was. One is people weren't talking about it anymore because it was 30 or 40 years old. It is a topic that journalists were a little bit tired of, and it didn't concern Europeans. It was somewhere in Africa. And it was because people weren't talking about it that people carrying the virus felt stigmatized for the whole thing. So in other words, there was a much higher win to be had with this if we could destroy that stigma. And since then, I mean, there's been so many people. There was a wave of people who actually came out being HIV positive. Gary Kessler, who has been leading Lifeball in Vienna for 25 years, on the same year as us having produced the magazine, he came out as being HIV positive, as did many celebrities after that. But, you know, there are things that you need to know if you are going to spread a lethal virus. Yeah, it's not that easy, and I was thinking that I may end up in prison at some point. The first thing you need to remember is that enthusiasm, it isn't always shared. This idea almost didn't happen. In fact, this idea almost didn't happen 3 times because people were shit scared about it. Why? There are these group of lawyers in the United States who look for people who feel some kind of emotional distress. And although the magazine was never going to be sent to the United States, these lawyers, they still prey on people who might be feeling a little bit scared that someone had released a magazine with a virus out there. So they would create a class action suit. And the French holding company, which owns Saatchi & Saatchi, had basically said, no, we really don't want to do this. So it took me 7 years to make this happen, and every time I found a different angle. In the end, I just did it. I asked for forgiveness later. It's helped many people, and strangely enough, the people who were doubting it, yeah, they became wonderful fathers of the idea afterwards, which happens with success many times, but you have to be generous about it. There's another thing, there's a positive thing to come out of this enthusiasm and these lawyers, this lack of enthusiasm in lawyers, is you saw that it was inside a plastic wrapper. Obviously, the virus dies within 30 minutes of being outside of the body, but lawyers did advise us to put a warning on there. And I said, well, how the fuck can I put a warning on a magazine I want people to hold? Yeah? So what we did is we put the resealable wrapper on there to actually challenge people and give them a moral dilemma. Do they open it? Are they educated enough not to be afraid of it? Is anything going to happen? And it was resealable, so they could pass it on to other people. And it added just that additional, I don't know, theatre to the whole topic. When you're spreading a virus, the other thing you need, it's a lot of science. So we worked with Harvard and Innsbruck University. We worked with the United Nations. We had different doctors, AIDS councils. Everybody was there. Then we also came up with a second problem, which we needed some kind of scientific, or I don't know, technical help. Something I didn't think about was that these days when you print a magazine, it's not ink anymore, it's powder. So how do you then distribute blood through a powdered printing press? So we created a special diffuser, which, what was it? A diffuser which kind of used 29 parts saline solution and 1 part blood to actually drip throughout the whole printing process of the magazine. And the last thing you need when you are going to embark on an idea like this is bravery. And it's not just people like me. I can stand up on stage and talk about how brave this idea was, but you actually need heroes. So I once again would like to take my hats off to the 3 donors of the blood, Wiltrud, Philip and Wyndham, who's pictured here, because they are the real heroes of the project. They live with the stigma every day, and they were ready to put themselves out there to actually break down the barriers. And so successes like this remind me that we are makers, yeah? We're not consumers, yeah? If we're creative people, we're actually leading the pack. And too often clients, they look at research. I had this stupid client who would research an animatic for 42 weeks. Now, an animatic is not even a commercial. That's just a 30-second storyboard. And she researched 10 different ones where there was only 1 line change and did that for 42 weeks. I don't know what that is. So when you are creative, and I look at myself as being a commercial artist and I have something to say, I remind myself that we are setting the trends. We are creating the conversations out there. We create the culture. We create culture. Because consumers, they just won't respond to anything that they can do themselves. Consumers want to be pushed. They want to be wowed by what we can do. Because if not, we live in something called the United State of Vanilla. I mean, how many billboards do we pass by every day and we don't even look at them properly? Yeah, the photography is just the same. There's no audacity to anything out there, and there's nothing new with a message. So we need to demonstrate this ambition. Because if we don't, we won't actually build our brands. And in these days, when you're living in like a participative world, world of social media, agencies and clients don't own the brands anymore. The consumers own the brands, and actually the consumers build the brands through conversations. And those conversations only happen when it's interesting. If you do interesting things, people will talk about you. So here's what that client who researched for 42 weeks, this is what I got her to do later on.
According to the World Health Organization, the air quality in Delhi is the worst in the world. And that's why this year's Amity Half Marathon that happened last Sunday had to be done differently.
Otrivin, the world's leading nasal spray, sponsored the Amity Half Marathon with one purpose: to help all runners breathe better. But instead of cleaning 6,000 noses, Otrivin cleaned the air. As we know, when it rains, the air is a lot cleaner with reduced pollution levels. So, we made it rain, very locally and much more efficiently. Hours before the start, we used powerful mist cannons to eliminate pollution. The smallest drops of mist latch onto chemicals, dust and dirt, and make them fall harmlessly to the ground like rain. This technology comes from the mining and construction industry and has been fine-tuned for this purpose.
By decreasing pollution, we have cleaner air, restoring normal respiratory function and increasing health and athletic performance.
For the duration of the race, we turned the track into a corridor of healthier air. The event had over 6,000 participants and 0 respiratory emergencies. Pollution was reduced up to 93%, including pollen, cement dust, ozone, coal dust, carbon dioxide, car emissions, lead dust, oil smoke and ash.
I really enjoyed it. Spray was good,
Yeah.
That was the best part of it.
Yeah, it was amazing. I broke my previous record.
This is a new way to make outdoor events in polluted areas healthier and more enjoyable, simply by helping people breathe better.
So the good news that terrible client became desensitized to fear, and she started making better work just because we pushed her in doing that. It's kind of like when therapists push their patients to get over their fears, whether or not it's looking out of the window over heights or flying on a plane. This next piece of work I'm particularly proud of because it starts off with the insight. We wanted to help people, and we realized that every week there were 3 billion hours of 3 billion hours of gaming being done on mobile phones. So the question we asked ourselves is, what would happen if we purpose that 3 billion hours of gaming to do something good?
I know playing games on your phone or your tablet is a great way to pass the time. Now, though, it could also help in the fight against dementia.
Dementia research is decades behind where we are with cancer research. We need a new way to get data from every culture and every age, and we need it faster than ever before.
See Heroquest, the world's first mobile game where anyone can help scientists fight dementia. Because Deutsche Telekom believed that memories should be shared, not lost, we brought together leading scientists, dementia charities and gaming experts to create a game that would put the power to fight dementia in everyone's hands.
You're a sea explorer and you're recovering memories for your father. You're going on the journey that he went on. And as you move around, your position gets relayed back to the scientists and they can see it like a heat map. And that data is used to try and understand on a mass scale how people are navigating around.
Every little movement they make, every choice they make gets fed to us and we can map it out. And the more we can find out about how people find their way around, the better we can understand the problems people might get in dementia.
Through Deutsche Telekom's mobile network, we reached out to people everywhere and invited them to share their time and game for good. In just 2 weeks, we'd hit 1 million downloads and the world was hooked on See Heroquest.
That is really cool. Tweet, hashtag, game for good.
Experts have devised an app that with just 2 minutes of play can provide scientists with the equivalent of 5 hours of data.
So far, we've generated over 6,000 years worth of data and fundamentally changed why people play games.
Those hours that people are ploughing into casual games have no impact except to pass time. This is like an opportunity for them to actually have some value associated with that time that they're spending.
I mean, this is really a revolutionary way of doing research on a scale that's unprecedented.
It's amazing to think how fast we can do this research. We're not playing catch up anymore.
You probably heard in there that there was a statistic, by playing this game, if you spend 2 minutes playing this game, we can generate over 5 hours of research. So what I want to do is something very quick here. You were asked all to download if you've already got the game on your mobile phone. We're going to do a quick live gaming session, and I kind of guesstimate there's about 300 people here today, maybe 400. So I've adjusted the figures up there. Can we pop the countdown on? Who's got their phones? Everyone, hands up? Yeah, great. So if I could just ask you to basically start playing. We're going to donate 2 minutes of this time. Okay. So already we're generating up to 12 hours worth of data in just this short amount of time. Have you caught any monsters yet? Okay, keep going. Keep going. So as you can see, with every second, we're generating hours just within this room. Good. Few more sound effects like that would be good. Yeah, great. Oh, I can hear someone getting stars over there. think we're coming up to the 2 minutes in a second. Yeah, keep going. Oh, you've got 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're out. And as you can see in the 2 minutes, just in this room, what is dead time, just listening to me, you've actually generated 50 hours worth of data. So some of the figures inside the, if we can go back to the presentation, please. Some of the figures inside that film are slightly off. The reality is we have now generated, I think, somewhere around 13,000 years, human years worth of data, which is incredible considering that previously dementia research was 100 years behind cancer. It's incredible because the biggest, let's say, group of people they ever studied was 599 people, and currently we've had over 3 million downloads. So again, this is the way that dementia research was done before. In fact, most scientific research is done, is you look for volunteers in this way. It's often just a piece of paper there, you tear it off and people come in. Heroquest has revolutionized not just dementia research, but it is these principles are being applied across the whole spectrum for scientific research at the moment. And it just keeps going on, and the uses are being open sourced the data is being open sourced for people. Because we know that great things happen when people start to share. So here is just even in the first, I think this was the first 6 weeks, there were almost 1,500,000 downloads. And we know the game was engaging because people logged in over 5 million times. That's 3 point something, entries, which is phenomenal for any kind of game in the beginning. So if you have a look at this chart here, this is kind of like what data has been like, the collection of data has been like over the last few years. 5,000, I think, was a collective sum of different studies from all over the world, which still isn't a lot. Heroquest is actually the biggest scientific study in the history of medicine. I think the one closest was a vaccination, a thing done in Africa or in the US, which had just under 2 million people. We've gone way, way, way above that. Again, something like Heroquest has created a whole category of games, and people feel a lot better about playing a game which can actually do good for somebody. So I guess tying up is, if you set your ambitions very high and you are brave, you can actually pave the way for something amazing. And I would encourage everybody to be able to get up in the morning and go to work. It doesn't matter what you do or what part of the company you work in, but to bring your ideas and not to be afraid that people will tell you you're too ambitious or you're silly or I've never heard of that before. But ideas grow, and you need a lot of brave people around you to make them happen. So that's it from me. I just wanted to say thank you for having me, and yeah, game for good.